Hello and welcome to the Annie Altman Show, the podcast, Season 5. Welcome to the third episode in the Compassion Sea series. Today I am here with Robin Sargan, and he's an acro yoga teacher. He is a generally watery, compassionate, kind human, and we are California to Hawaii, Zoom calling, and podcasting. Thank you for coming on and sharing.
Oh my gosh, it's a great way to share this nice sun that we both have. It's like we're in almost the same room, but not sliding the way to the left. It's crazy. I guess
Pretending.
You're right. I don't know.
Yeah, well, in the mirroring of computers. If
I
you're
know
watching
that's.
YouTube, then you can see our setups here.
I find that so weird too. Just like this, talking to someone over, because I didn't realize when you're taking a picture, like a selfie, it's a mirror, but then it like flips it like in real life. So it's weird, you know. I find it weird when the image like kind of flips on you and it doesn't like look right. So I don't know. It's
So many layers of distortion.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but it's just like it's for our own convenience, you know, because it's like we're not used to like seeing your right hand go up when you lift up your right hand, you know, because we're used to like looking at ourselves in a mirror, I guess, you know.
So it's supposed to look more like how when we're looking in a mirror, and that's why stuff gets all flipped around?
Yeah, because it's weird if you like lift your right hand and in the video, the right hand is lifting, right? It would be strange.
I'm brain fucked now about like which.
Right, if you make an L, that's the left. That's what I know. But you know, in a selfie, you don't know which one actually makes an L. I don't know. I don't know why we're talking about that. Anyway, hi.
Welcome.
Hi. Yeah, this is great. This is gonna be fun. I haven't like talked to someone on Zoom for like a long time. It's always just like checking in on family, hi, hello, and then when you're done, you're done. So if I move around too much, just let me know and tell me to sit still.
I really appreciate you on the yoga mat and on the ball, rolling around, blowing it through.
Flowing it through.
Flowing it through like water.
Yeah.
Easing on through the virtual talking, because we wouldn't be able to podcast otherwise. Not right now.
That's true. Yeah, since you're all the way in Hawaii. How is it over there, by the way?
Surrounded by water here.
Yeah. You're basically at home. Yeah, I haven't been to an island in like so long. You know, like I feel like that's a different kind of living than not being on an island. You know what I mean? No, you know what I mean?
Feels really different to have so much water around.
Just water around you, right? We're saying like if you're close to water or you like dip your feet in water, it just kind of makes everything kind of feel a little bit better, right? Yeah.
There's the saltwater therapies of sweat, tears, and ocean water.
I love how is it in that order? Sweat, tears, and that's a lot. I feel like maybe that's why
maybe it can be a circle. Can keep going.
Maybe that's why the ocean's so salty, huh?
All the tears and sweat.
Just like Mom Earth's tears and sweat.
All because of humans. Have you lived on an island before? Or when was your last time being on one?
Last time being on an island was, I think, right before this whole pandemic. I was in Australia in January, end of January to February with my co-teacher, who essentially moved out there. Co-teacher Todd. He basically moved back there since nothing like that's happening these days. You know, acro's been very tough in these days of quarantine. You know, which is sad. Well,
really sad when touch and movement are so beneficial for immunity.
But yeah, I feel like that's like the hardest thing for me is just like not being able to play. You know, it's play. You know, and once we kind of lose that, we just kind of feel old, dead, old, more like old. Like you kind of lost that childishness. You know?
And that movement and that water flow to explore and not have to feel so stagnant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Also, I feel like when you're exercising, moving, you're kind of like using more water, so you have to like
Through your body.
drink, and then you have to like drink more water. So it's essentially
Of like the
What was
water flow. Well, can you hear that the weed whacker? Maybe it's not picking up.
Oh, is that a weed whacker? Maybe. I thought it was just like room noise or something.
We can pretend it's room noise.
Yeah, it's just room noise, right? It's all that's all that is room noise.
Well, okay, so let's go right into like spiritual science and blood and chi and water and that flow and the movement of it to get it moving, to keep it feeling playful and young, quote unquote. Then I'm like, oh, well, you're going to sound like an ageist, Annie, or you're saying like young is flowy.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's less about age than it is about just, it's less about age because, you know, it's, and more about just like the want to play or the desire to play, you know, because you know there are people who go through life just always wanting to play, you know. It's just, yeah, I mean, and play could be anything, you know. It's just like wanting to tap the it's like jumping to tap something on like the top of a door frame could be play, you know. And why don't we do that anymore, you know? It's it's silly, but I mean it's nice, you know. It's just kind of like jump around and bounce and just move and yeah. But yeah, it's less about age because there's some people who are like super young who don't even like play anymore, you know, and that's one of the things. Like I haven't seen so many people just kind of like be super stiff in the hips because I work at a running store too. I don't know if do you know this? So I work at a running store too, and you know, we running's been taking off, which is great, but these are people who have been like just sitting for the past 4 months essentially, you know. So everything in the hips is like super tight and you know, everything's always hurting and it's hard because it's like some of them probably used to be runners before, right? And then now they're like, oh, it's like I can't run the same. It's like, why? What's going on, you know? It's like, dude, you just have to be like, you know, you have to be able to like start slow and just be, you know, compassionate with yourself and like not take it so hard and just, you know, chill. You just have to chill sometimes, you know. Your body's not going to be able to like play like it used to unless you kind of build it up, you know. Sorry, am I rambling? I think I'm rambling.
That's the whole point of this podcast. Ramble.
That's the whole point. Yeah, ramble all you
want. Play is its own practice, and it's that hip tightness is so real, and the fight or flight reaction in your body that then makes your hips feel so tight, and like because of the seriousness of it, of like we have to do things in this way and in this order and in this list of exactly how it goes, and I can control it to check things off with a certain objective rather than, oh, I wonder if I can jump up and tap that thing. Like, let's tap it. Let's try. Let's see what happens. Or not even with all that conscious thought as much as like, ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know why I didn't just like do that. Just like jump up and touch the roof.
Well, I know.
I don't think I can. This maybe I can. That's why. Maybe that's why we stopped. You know, we just stopped because we're like, oh no, hey, that's pretty high. I can't jump that high anymore.
Well, the problem I feel like is that we feel like, oh, we're not allowed. Like for me, is like I'm not allowed to play. There's not space. It's not safe. There's not time. I need to do things instead, or like.
Yeah.
You know, only work is productive and rest and play aren't productive. And I'm like, hold on, brain, come on.
It's interesting to me. I feel like, I don't know if that's like an American thing or is that just like
internalized capitalism.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably it. But
one piece.
Yeah, I mean, what was that?
One piece of it.
Yeah, one piece of it could be that. It could be, yeah, maybe we were just like afraid to try to be that. Yeah.
Because what if we quote unquote fail, or what if actually we're happy and we have fun?
Yeah. It's like, what if we could have, yeah, I mean, why isn't that the goal of people anymore? You know, it's like, why can't your goal just to be happy, you know, is the goal? Why does it have to be like, oh, I have to make like such and such amount of money so I can retire, blah, blah, blah. Or you know, why can't it just be, I just want to be happy? And life success is based on not what you like make or whatever. It's just like, that's because I'm happy most of the time, you know? Yeah, it's like, I feel like we've kind of lost that. Well, yeah, I feel like we've kind of lost that. We've lost sight of what, maybe it's that. Maybe it's like you don't know what'll make you happy, you know? We've kind of lost that drive, you know? It's like, what is it that makes me happy? What makes you happy, Annie? What makes you happy?
This podcast makes me happy to do.
Cool. Yeah.
Chocolate happy. Silence.
What makes you
happy? I said chocolate, cacao.
Cacao. Is that it? Is that a C? That's in your. That should be a C.
It's in my blood. Yeah, for sure. Like a good percentage of my being.
It's cacao. It's like, yeah. I'm like
chocolate and weed and yoga.
Oh my gosh, that's the trifecta.
It's
what was it?
Music, singing, dancing.
Music, yeah.
Learning from people sharing their stories, making food with people, giving food to people. Oh my gosh, I'm happy. Getting to give someone kombucha or food or something that I made they're like, thank you. And I'm like, no. Thank you.
That's cute. Yeah, honestly, that's one for me too. I really like just like cooking, making the food, and then giving it. You know, it's nice. I like making it pretty. You know, I like dressing plates and stuff like that. You know, even though it's like little things, but it just makes me happy to like make the plate. You know, because I feel like what was it? We tend to, what was the number? Oh yeah. I heard like, since we're such visual creatures, like humans, we absorb like the thing that's most connected to our brain is the visual cortex, right? It's like, it takes like, we essentially take in it 80% of the world through our eyes, like the way we are like, you know, essentially built. You know, how our bodies, if everything is like functioning normally, I think we take in 80% of the world with our eyes. You know, we're visual creatures, right? So if you make something like pretty, you know, it just kind of, it makes you hungrier, I guess, you know, but I guess more smell and taste is connected, right? Is that the case?
All of it. Having it be the whole experience too. Eating with your eyes first is really real.
Right?
And also the slowing down, the taking the time, that really change how food tastes and feels to me. Like, and to enjoy the beauty of it. I definitely went to this extreme of like, no, that's so egotistical, or that's so materialistic, or that's so whatever, to care about appearances of any sort of a thing.
Oh yeah.
To remember that part of it can be fun. It can be really enjoyable to plate a meal just to plate it, just for fun, just because it looks good.
Yeah, just because, yeah, right. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's that is also like the opposite end of that, is if you take too much care in how something looks and then like the flavor's not there, then it's missing that 20%, which is like so huge. Yeah, well, I actually with eating, I guess it's more than 20%. That's taste, right? Like the visual is now like,
yeah, it's like what it's been cooked with or prepared with, or
yeah, that's for sure. Are you like, what makes me really happy?
Yeah,
oh
and then
gosh.
Go back. I need to cut off your question.
No. It's fine. What makes I was trying to like get
every guest of like, what's not like, what do you like doing, or like, what do you like to do? What do you want me to promote for social media? Like, what's the plug for you? Is being like, what makes you happy? What's your name? What brings you joy?
Oh, I like that, dude. I don't know if I would have been able to answer that. Yeah, it's what makes me happy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, right now this Thai tea is making me happy. Brewed it myself. It's good.
Ooh.
Some almond milk. Yeah.
How do you brew it?
Well, I mean, it's not store-bought Thai tea is what I'm saying. It's basically like Thai tea, tea bags, and then I just add like some sugar and almond milk. Yeah, it's good. It's not as sweet as they normally make it, because dude, sometimes when you have that, you're just like, wow, my mouth is just my whole tongue is covered in syrup. This is yummy, but at the same time, not really. So at least, yeah, with this one, it's not so soon. Anyway, yeah, what makes me happy? I think the trifecta is yeah, it makes me happy too. You know, the
weed yoga,
the yoga, yeah, weed yoga, chocolate. Yeah, that's a good trifecta. I don't know if you're frozen on my end. I don't know if that's affecting anything, or if you're hearing me okay.
It was glitchy, and I think we're back.
We're okay. Okay.
I definitely also am learning how to have more fun and more play with the things that are even less structured than that, or like less external of I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to sit here. I'm like, legs up the wall is very fun for me because it's such a powerful do less, and do less, fucking chill. A very loving reminder to chill.
Yeah, I like that. Didn't you do like a comedy thing where you're doing legs up the wall?
I did, yeah. If you want to come on that too,
you did something like that, right? Yeah.
We could go live together with our legs up the wall virtually.
Legs up the wall.
Which is called waterfall pose sometimes, which we're back on water.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think we should definitely hit that up. We should definitely do that then. We should do legs up the wall, something for a little bit of this, you know. I'd be happy to do that. Actually, yeah, let's do that.
It's the closest thing that I have found to a cure-all. There's no cure-alls, and it is the closest one. Yes, legs up. This is the first legs up the wall on the podcast. Thank you, Robin.
No, it's really good. This is so underrated, you know. Just putting your legs up. Especially I ran this morning for like the first time in like a week. You know, we did some sprints in Griffith Park, and I hadn't done that in a while, and oh my gosh, my legs are so sore. So it's good. This is good. It's good, and it's good that this is like waterfall pose too. I didn't know that's what this is called.
There's a lot of names for it. That's one of the other English word names of it.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of are, do you do a lot of did you do like a teacher training or something for yoga, or
I did,
just a
yeah.
lot
I
of
did a
Sanskrit
200.
stuff?
What? I'm sorry about all the noise. I did
Oh
not
yeah,
or I did not know about the timings. You were asking if I did a teacher
it's all
training?
good. Um, yeah. Did you do a teacher training and stuff for yoga?
Yeah, I did a vinyasa training. Right now, my
I
personal
feel like
practice
that's the only.
is yin centered and very. I'm still recovering from tendonitis, tendinosis, tendinopathy, and so it's been a lot of
Oh
legs up
yeah.
the wall and yin, and
In your
really learning to
in your foot, right?
my right ankle. So it's been a lot of learning to. I've had a lot of good sit down talks with my inner yoga bro that was like, but chaturanga, bro. And I'm like, okay, can't do that right now. So we got what else? You could do nothing or you could do something else.
Yeah, it's always. I feel like that's one thing about yoga that is more needed, is like yoga that's just nice to yourself, you know.
Totally. I know I
Like
got into like
just
exercise
being able
yoga.
to chill instead of like, what was that?
I know I got into exercise yoga rather than the yoga that is
Exercise yoga.
chill and actually connect with your breath and yourself. I'm really sorry about the timing of this
Yeah, because
noise. This
I
is
feel
goofy.
like it's okay. I mean, you tell you tell me if it's okay. It's your podcast. Yeah. Um, but yeah, what was I saying? I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh yeah.
About yoga going.
Another thing is, I feel like you, you won't even, you don't know Sanskrit for yoga unless you've gone through a teacher training. I have like no idea what a lot of the names of poses are, because it's like I don't really I don't know. It just kind of, every time it's told to me in the class, like what the name of the pose is, it's like I try to remember, but then I don't. It's just like, I feel like it's because I'm too like focused on trying to breathe, or trying to make my glute not be so tight or something, So it's like I always forget the names of stuff. Yeah.
It
What's
definitely very like
what's what?
westernized. That shows a
Yeah.
lot of
What's waterfall in Sanskrit?
I'm blanking on the Sanskrit name for legs up the wall. There is a name.
Forgot it. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
true
it.
that it's the Parita Karani.
Parita Karani.
The Parita Karani, legs up the wall pose.
I feel like that's such a
It means inverted in
Sanskrit.
action.
Inverted in action, like non-action in action.
So, ooh, maybe.
Or is it in action? Inverted.
So Google says that the Parita means inverted and Karani means in action.
In action, like in action.
In space action. That's a good question though, and then it's a fun wordplay distinction.
Yeah.
What
would we do? What would we do without Google, huh?
Right? Thank you, yogajournal.com.
Thank you, yogajournal.com.
Well, and this is where it's like there's the part of this that is, how do we use yoga to acknowledge the practice in if we're practicing it in a Western location, that there's going to be some amount of Westernization, and also that the part of the practice that is the practice of connecting with yourself and listening to yourself and being compassionate.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one upside of being able to kind of because I always like went to classes for yoga since I didn't know what I was doing, or what I'm doing when I do yoga. My self-practice always ends up being like a couple of sun salutations and then handstand stuff, because it's like, that's all. And then I just like roll around on the floor. That's my practice. But when I'm doing classes, it's like the one good thing that like this pandemic has done is, one, it's just more accessible classes. It's like you can just kind of go out of bed and just do a yoga class, which is great. And you can take it from anywhere in the world. It's like you can support like people who are teaching classes in, on the East Coast, or, all the way like across the world in the Philippines or whatever. It's been nice. Also, it's been nice to like, just anytime I'm in like a class, for some reason, I can't connect with myself since I'm always like looking around and comparing, and so it's been nice to just be like, no one else to look at, but so you can kind of just focus on yourself. That's been good. That's, I think, one of the good things that's come out from this whole pandemic.
I really feel that there's a lot to be said about the power of practicing something with a community, or like going to an acro jam and being with people, and also about that whole practice where there aren't external distractions, where your option is to connect with yourself.
That's what I've missed like the most, though, just being able to like play with other monkeys,
Each of playing with others and playing with yourself, innuendos and things intended. You need both sides.
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like I'm the type of person who always has to like be around people to like be super, to feel more alive, Yeah.
You feel less alive alone?
I feel more alive when I'm like interacting with people and, just like talking and just like exchanging that energy, getting things flowing that way, Yeah.
Do you identify as an extrovert and recharging with other people more than recharging?
Yeah, I don't know. These days I feel like I'm more introverted just because I guess you have to be, but now it's like I feel like I don't even know what to do in like meeting people in real life. It's like the whole norms of how we interact with each other, it's just like so different now, or I feel like it's different, or maybe it's like a muscle that it's out of practice, so you just don't know. You don't know what you're doing when you're interacting with people. I don't know. That's how I've been feeling these days. It's like you just can't go up to like an old friend and just be like, hey, how are you, and hug. You always have to like ask first. It's like, oh, are you cool with this? But which is good, at least you're, consent is being asked all the time of physical touch, which is always important, especially in play, I guess. Anyway, but what was I saying? I was saying something. Oh yeah, it's like we're just like super awkward these days when you're interacting, or that's how I feel. It's like I've forgotten, it's like it's like, how do you shake someone's hand? How do you give a hug?
How do you see someone's new boundaries, and also not knowing or how to communicate about, like you said, like, hey friend, like what feels good to you? What are you doing? What are we doing here? Like what's going on?
Yeah, that's been a challenge, but it's like just like anything, you always have to kind of grow and learn and figure things out, yeah.
Keep navigating it with passion that nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows where things are going, or also that perspective, like you're saying too, of without going into toxic positivity of like, I'm not allowed to be upset, or there's no negatives or whatever, to say, oh, this is a cool positive about my own home yoga practice now, and classes being available more, and seeing that side of it too.
Sorry, I didn't catch what you were. I don't know if I missed the first part of that question. Could you ask that one more time?
I didn't ask a question. I was podcast rambling about the compassionate perspective without going into toxic positivity or saying that, you know, oh, we can only focus on the good of the pandemic and COVID-19 and meh, to say, okay, well, there are still goods and we can still remember
toxic positivity. That's I've never heard that term before, but I guess that is like a thing, you know. You could be toxically positive
if you're not allowing negative emotions that are existing.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, there's the whole camp of
negative, quote unquote.
No, yeah, the people who say like, you know, your thoughts, if you keep them positive, then it'll kind of attract that positive kind of vibe. Which, yes, but also it's like, I guess I don't know. I guess see myself as more of a realist than all things are puppies and rainbows, you know.
Really?
I don't know if that's too cynical or you know, but
to me it's an own type of cynicism flavor to gaslight things that are happening and to act like things aren't real. I do so to, again, go to water of like attracting like, and water molecules attracting to water molecules. There is, when I focus on what I'm grateful for, when I focus on the positive of things, I feel different. Like when you asked me to list things that make me happy, I felt happier. So I was like, oh my gosh, chocolate and yoga and weed and fasting and my legs up the wall. Oh my gosh, he's putting his legs up the wall now. And that is really real. And also because we live in a dualist 3D dimension here, as far as I'm aware, it's also really real that sadness, that anger, that loneliness, that jealousy, that these other things come up, that in my experience, the more I've acted like they're not there, that it only strengthens them. And so when people get into all very law of attraction, to me at times it can get into spiritual bypassing, it can ignore mental health, it can ignore trauma, it can just gaslight a lot of things. It can ignore, the biggest one too is ignoring resource equity and of resources, to say if that person doesn't have food security, them thinking positively is not going to change it on its own. And how are you going to go tell that person to change their thought process when they're hungry and they don't have food?
Yeah. That's actually such a big thing that's kind of overlooked. It's like you can't look at like things that are, what was it? The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like you can't get to like the other tiers if your base tier isn't covered. You know, it's like if you're not addressing your hunger pains, your lack of shelter, you can't think about like, oh, it's like I just need to, you know, be happy. It's hard, you know, but still, I mean, there are people who still are, you know, and I feel like it's because their attitude of being grateful is great, you know. I feel like that's something that we've kind of forgotten about too, you know. It's like just being happy for like the little things, like you're saying, you know. It's like or we were talking about this. We were talking about this already. It's like if you I lost my train of thought, and I should really stop smoking so much. But
Is that what it feels like? Or it's like wrong to lose a train of thought because you're philosophy rambling?
Maybe because it's also like
we're not going to get out of this podcast being like, we've solved compassion and this is what water means and we've created the Be Like Water and this is water speeches together here.
Okay, yeah, so just kind of, yeah, just keep tugging at that thought. Got it. Keep tugging at that thought. But yeah, now I lost it. I was listening to you had mentioned earlier, you call it we're beings in a third dimension, and I was just I heard this, I forgot if it was on a podcast as well or it was just like a video of Carl Sagan describing like the fourth dimension. Have you ever seen that video? But it was I probably wouldn't be able to explain it nearly as well, but it's interesting to me how he, like, you know, described, you know, 1D versus 2D versus 3D, you know, and like how, since we are a three-dimensional being, we cannot like fathom what a fourth dimension is, because we can't even understand it, because the world that we're seeing, actually, it's we're living in a 3D world, but we see things in like 2D, you know. It's like things that are like on screen and stuff. How we know like this bottle, for example, is like, you know, is like going closer to you, is it just becomes like bigger, you know. So the way our brain kind of sees it is, this is just kind of getting bigger rather than it's coming towards us, you know. That's how we process it, I guess, you know. I don't know if that,
yeah, I hadn't even thought of that distinction.
Yeah.
Beings and like we're talking about with vision, we process on the two.
Yeah, it's like so everything we see is essentially like we experience the world through only in only 2D, essentially, you know. So beings who are like fourth dimension, we essentially look like, you know, what's a 2D? We look like Mario to them, I guess. We're basically Mario to them.
It's like an old school video game.
Yeah, that's so hard, I guess. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
Is there water in 4D? How do elements translate?
Well, that's a question for a physicist. Hopefully you can get one on your show one of these days. I tune in for that, you know. It's yeah, it's funny. It's like, now that you have all this time to like read and stuff, there are like so many avenues that you can go in terms of like learning things you always wanted to look into, you know. It's like, I feel like since kids are learning like this now, like just on the computer, it's essentially, they can just essentially Google whatever the hell they want, you know, or learn about whatever they want, you know. Right now, it's like, why even have like a structured school program and just kind of let kids just be like, what do you like doing? It's like, here's
play there.
Yeah. Here's like, you know, 6 hours in your day where you're in front of this thing. You can't play. Well, I guess maybe you can't play video, but you have like, it's essentially like having them sit in a library, you know. It's like, you can just research and read on whatever topic you want, you know. Just it's there. It's like in their hands, their phones or whatever, you know. It's like, and they're just not using it properly, you know. I guess what is properly anyway, you know. But you know, I just feel like, yeah, if school was like that, it would maybe be better. I don't know.
I feel like we're gonna see in our lifetime education shifting more towards that. I
mean, it's already
studying what you're excited about and interested in, and letting your energy flow, giving your water attention to the stuff you actually want to give attention to, because how more effectively can someone learn besides
following what they want to do. Yeah. So I mean,
you can only teach yourself, really. If we're all our own guru, and we need teachers to guide us, and also we need to learn from our own experience. And also with that play perspective of having learning be play rather than, okay, like here's the list, here's the boxes you have
to check off.
To know that you did this, rather than like that ends up, I feel like we limit ourselves as a whole collective of humans. Because think about what someone might learn if they got to really pursue what they're super passionate about.
It's true, but also there's also like just so much false information out there too, you know? So it's, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why there has to be like some kind of structure. But I mean, if what they're teaching people in school also, who chooses that curriculum, you know? I mean, that's probably also like chosen and curated, you know, and no one can kind of say otherwise. I mean, like I went to high school in the Philippines, right? And I did some schooling there too. And, you know, history there was like taught in Tagalog, which I wasn't like too familiar with, but it was interesting that they only taught in the school that I went to, they only taught 2 classes in the native language there, and the rest was like in English. And the 2 classes were Filipino, like language and history. And I was like wondering, it's like, why would they teach history in Filipino? But I guess that makes sense. I mean, it's like so you don't forget also, you know, what you're learning. It's like this is like the home countries, whatever, you know. But anyway, well, I don't know why I was talking about that, but oh yeah, it's like history. It's like you're essentially learning just one side of a story, you know, with history, you know. So I guess that's curated information too.
However it's written, or what you're choosing to focus on, or what the person who wrote it is choosing.
Yeah, it was true. Exactly, you know.
That's really cool to teach history in the language of the place that you're teaching it. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, at first I was like, man, this is because you know, it's like it was difficult for me to understand since I didn't really speak Tagalog that well. So I was like, I hate this stupid class. It's like, it doesn't even have to be in in Tagalog. It's just like, you know, more work for my brain, you know. But yeah, I think it was good that it was taught that way, you know.
Do you still speak it at all, or have you ever like dreamed?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like there are times where there are words that I would rather stay in like Filipino, because there's like no direct like English translation of it, you know. Do you speak any other languages?
Little bits of it. Spanish is the one that I can understand the most of, besides English. Some Hebrew when I was bat mitzvahed, very minimally, and like minimal Yiddishy words.
Yiddish. What Yiddish is different than Hebrew? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I get some of that like certain words don't translate, or it has a very different meaning and feeling.
Yeah. Especially feeling, you know, because it's like, you know, I mean, it was a line in Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, that kind of stuck with me, where they were saying all words are made up. And then it's just like, oh yeah, you're right. It's like, it was like someone said, oh, that's not a word. It's like, you just made up that word. It's like, well, all words are made up. And I was just like, all words are made up. Someone just like created them. It's like, what is this called? You know, this is a pen, you know. And you're just like, all words.
We all
So
agreed to it. We were like, pen.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a pen. That's also a pen. That's a blue ink pen. That's a black ink pen. That's ink in the pen.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know.
That one's a pencil. Don't confuse them.
Yeah. Yeah. Why was I bringing that up? Oh yeah, there are like just words that are like the word kilig. Kilig is uh, spelled Kilig, kilig, right? It's I don't think there's an English translation for it, but let's say if you see a super cute dog, right, and you want to like just pinch its cheeks, the feeling that you're having is kilig, right? So what would that
Cute
be
aggression.
in English?
There's a label called cute aggression, which is like the two brain paths of wanting to see something cute and
Cute
like
aggression.
to like squeeze its face off.
Okay, but kilig can also describe the feeling you have when, you know, you're someone you were attracted to kissed you on the cheek. That's also kilig. So it's not cute aggression, right? But it's that
like
same. It's describing that same. Yeah. It's basically describing that feeling too, you know. So it's like there's that word that, you know, it can't be like translated. I guess fuzzies. Yeah, having the fuzzies is a good word for it. Yeah, it's so interesting to me that like there are terms like that. There's a Japanese term. I forgot the word for it, but it was like eating not because you're hungry, but because your mouth is lonely. It was like a Japanese word that was like very specific to that feeling. So it's funny. I love languages. They're fun. I wish I just like, that would be, I think, one of the best superpowers is just kind of being able to speak and understand all languages. Yeah.
Seems like some fourth dimensional stuff in some capacity of vibration and words and communication.
Yeah, because I mean, if all words are made up, why can't we just like, yeah, I feel like once Elon Musk puts chips in all of us, you know, we'll be
I don't want to bring him up on
like,
the podcast until he shares dollars equitably with people.
What? Until he shares?
He has plenty. He could explore Mars and also share dollars. Elon, you can do both. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
I would be curious about a translation of compassion or different words about that feeling, or like to go back to different words and word labels for the emotion.
Yeah, we should look that up. Like, what are different words for compassion?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that would be kind of fun to like just see which word kind of sounds like the most like kind of brings out that feeling of compassion, you know, which one, in what language, what?
Any ones that you know of that you like? Like what is the Filipino one?
I'm trying to think what compassion would be in Tagalog. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had to say that word in Filipino.
There's cool like
compassion.
Like different word labels to point to the same feeling of, so like shalom and aloha are often both used as hello and goodbye and a sort of peace, love, compassion.
Shalom is compassion?
It means peace. Hello, goodbye.
It means peace. Oh.
So people will use it as a sort of, like, I think the Catholic version of this is like peace to you and your, everyone has.
Yeah, like everyone has like something.
Everybody has their word label of it.
Yeah, that's true. Because I feel like it's because they're trying to like say that feeling, but maybe that's where we kind of got it wrong, you know, because we're like replacing that feeling with the words, maybe we're not like feeling that feeling anymore. But, yeah, that could be a thing. Could that be a thing?
Totally. I know in my experience, I can go really into this over external processing or wanting to label or have a word. And again, on the bell curve pendulum, the seed graph here of where to use labels with other people to point at like, hey, what does that feeling feel like for you? How would you describe it? Where does it come up in your body? What do you learn about it? And also just to say, only I can feel my feelings and experience my feelings, and any of these labels I'm using are attempts at connection with someone else about what labels they would point to for their experiences. And we're not ever going to really fully know. For the compassion seed, that's a big one of compassion with myself and with others, that I feel my own feelings. So having an expectation of someone else to read my mind or to know my feelings, or an expectation that I am going to assume about their feelings when I cannot feel their feelings.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, we know what feelings feel like, but we don't know what other people's feelings feel like.
And we don't ever get to, I'm pretty sure, like, we don't inhabit the body. The podcast is one way where I get to be like, well, let's parse apart with word labels what it feels like to you, while also having your tone and your whatever as you're talking about it to maybe learn something. Which, like, this is where, to me, I'm also on altruism being so selfish, because we're all self-centered, because where else is our center?
Yeah. It's strange how we can be so self-centered, but we also don't like think about ourselves, at the same time. You know what I mean?
This is like what we were talking about before, of that therapy tool of talking to yourself like you talk to other people, and then saying, why are we all talking to ourselves so harshly a lot of the time?
Yeah, your inner dialogue is such, and then the way you talk to yourself is just such a, it's crazy. You like for me, for example, I did not have a good inner dialogue with myself, or my inner voice that speaks to me has always been very hard, and it's like, like with, for example, when I was like playing frisbee a lot, or playing sports, right? If I miss a shot, or if I like drop a pass or something like that, I would just be like so hard on myself, and then it's like I would never be that hard to like a teammate of mine, and then it just kind of, it was like dawned on me, just like, when someone had brought it up, it's like, you should have a kinder inner voice for yourself, otherwise it's like, if you can be like such a compassionate person, but if you're not compassionate with yourself, you're just like, it's like you're gonna explode, or you're just gonna fall into like this hole of despair. I mean,
explode or implode.
Yeah, because if you're not like kind with yourself, then dude, you're, at the end of the day, it's like we're always alone. I mean, not we're always alone. That sounds like super super sad, but yeah.
All day.
Yeah. It's if you're not happy with yourself, it's like, really only have yourself to blame, but don't blame yourself, change. yeah, but yeah, it's like we were just talking about it, it's funny.
I want that on a t-shirt. I love that.
Yeah.
You only have yourself to blame, and don't blame yourself. Be compassionate,
but don't play.
And be like water and keep flowing.
Yeah.
And also give yourself some credit, give yourself some kindness for even having that awareness of, wow, I'm speaking to myself really differently than I'm speaking to this person that I love a lot. And also that, wow, when I speak to myself more compassionately, I can speak to other people even more compassionately. And so again, with altruism and selfish and all of these, we can give the fill up your own cup so that you can fill up other people's, that water metaphor, and watering and water your garden and all of these cliches that are cliches for reasons about how are you going to talk kindly to someone else if you're being an asshole to yourself in your head all the time.
I think it was but I think it was the way it was happening with me is like I could be kind to other people because it was like almost like a martyrdom. You know, it's like
yes,
if it's like
the helper complex and the people pleaser complex.
Yeah, it was more like that, you know. But then it went to the point where my inner dialogue started like becoming the dialogue I would have to like the people closest to me, you know, because, you know, it's like they become like essentially an extension of yourself. So, you know, it's like you could be so compassionate to a stranger, but you're like so mean to like your partner or whatever, you know, and that's when you know something's like wrong, you know, with that relationship, you know. But yeah, I think it was like a people pleaser complex, right?
Well, it's all of it. And I really appreciate you bringing up that very human truth about taking our things out on, quote unquote, the people that we love and feel the closest to. And that then those are the people often that there's the most conflict with because of this, because of the compassion to hold the conflict, perhaps, that then also can really be detrimental to everyone to let something out because it needed to come out somewhere, like you said, an explode. Go somewhere. How to acknowledge it, and also how to acknowledge that martyrdom of like, oh well, you know, this is my job to do this thing, or this is whatever. And I'm curious too if you can relate to that sort of like the part of the martyrdom too that's like, oh well, I know because I've been so mean to myself, so I know what this is like, so I really care to not do this to someone else. And this sort of like, in my experience, okay, I've figured out the purpose of life, we're here to serve, so I need to serve others, and going to such an extreme of then forgetting, well, hey, you can't do that if you don't serve yourself. If your own Maslow's pyramid is not taken care of, then how are you going to record a podcast?
I feel like at some point it just becomes like easier to like think of like try to fix other people's problems than to fix your own.
Very well.
You know? Yeah, it becomes like, it's like we were talking about that too.
Like our loved ones too, it relates then, because it's like we're like expecting them to fix our problems, or we really want to fix their problems and we can't, so we get angry or resentful or whatever. Like that stuff
it could also be like when you start expecting things as well, you know. It's like if you're always the person that's fixing problems, then you sort of kind of expect them to do the same, you know. But it's not how it works.
An expectation on yourself maybe of like, I'm a problem fixer, I'm gonna do this stuff.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to like burden someone with your own problems. You know? Yeah, it could be that too. Or it could just be like, you know, you're not properly communicating your needs, and because you're like super ultra intuitive to someone else's needs, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the same with you, you know. I mean, like we were saying, it's like you don't know what someone else is feeling, you know, and they don't know how you're feeling. So if you don't like communicate that, that's how, I mean, you can you can be empathetic to a certain point, but if you know, if you can't, if they're not telling you, they're not gonna know. you know, no.
I know.
I know.
There's communication is a gift and requires some level of compassion to me in order to, because we don't have to, and people don't have to tell you what they're thinking and feeling and how something's impacting them or express their needs or whatever that is some level of compassion and intimacy and vulnerability to acknowledge that.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're saying, everything's kind of like interconnected. I think the best way to be or to communicate well is to be compassionate for someone else. You can't be compassionate without listening, and you can't listen without being compassionate.
Will you say that more, or go expand on that more? I love that.
What did I say? I don't know, I blacked out. You can't
compassionate.
Yeah, you can't listen without being compassionate, because I mean, to like freely like listen, it's not just or like to have like an actual conversation. You have to like listen to, not just what someone's saying and waiting for your turn to speak. You have to like actually listen for them to like actually like talk to you, because you can kind of feel that too sometimes, when you're talking to someone and all you're hearing back is essentially like, something that's about them, I don't know, just interrupt me at any time or whatever. But yeah, it's the same way on the other spectrum. You can't listen without being compassionate, and you can't be compassionate without listening, because it's a feedback loop. The way someone is like talking to you becomes the way that you kind of feel what they're feeling, not just through their words, but through, like however else we communicate, because, like we were saying, it's like talking, it's just like a limited, it's a limited version of like what we're actually trying to communicate. I mean, it's a big part, but that's not all that's happening when we're exchanging or having like this. What was the term that you were using earlier? What was the term you were using earlier? I can't remember now, but it was really well put. A verbal jam. It's like it's the same thing. It's like it's play. We're not just like talking to each other. We're like, playing with the words that we're using or whatever. And that's how we kind of like, I don't know, I'm just like podcast rambling, I guess. I don't know where I was going with that. But
I love that you blacked out a little and came back in, and those moments where you're like, wait, what did I just say? Where did that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah,
that wave of water just entered in here.
Yeah, it just entered and just like rushed back out.
That is that loop of it, of compassion. I feel like sharing a definition a friend shared with me once about compassion being sitting with suffering. And
compassion is sitting with suffering.
And so sitting with our own suffering, sitting with someone else's suffering, really hearing that undercurrent, for more watery puns, of the interconnection that we all suffer. And also that suffering is only a part of life, and there's all of these other things happening too. and that we all experience those too. We all experience loss and we all experience bliss.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel like that's the biggest kind of weirdest thing about life is the duality of it, you know. You can't be like happy without knowing what sadness is, and you know that valley because you've experienced the peak, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's a simple concept, but we just kind of forget sometimes, you know, that's what that's what life is, you know. It's like the dual nature of it.
Part of compassion is for that experience, being compassionate with duality. Or do you ever feel like that's challenging to
being what?
To be compassionate and accepting about that intense duality?
Oh man. I mean, you can just kind of
I love that response.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm asking that question because I don't know. I'm from my own feeling experience of being like, wow, I guess a lot of the compassion is loving duality of saying, wow, okay, I'm in a 3D form. There are these things. There's positive and negative, even if there's no positive and negative. And I got to pee and eat. And also I can feel all these big things that are connected to things. And
yeah, I kind of got lost. I got lost at when you said pee, because
okay.
I have to pee. So can we I don't know if we could like pause for a hot second.
You can take a pause, or can you hold it for 2 minutes and we can wrap it up?
Oh yeah.
We can compassionately,
no.
And then we can go release water.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's good. That's the whole flow of everything, right? It's like
we peed right
talk about water. It's like I think that's the thing is we're like we're so in this water that, you know, now it's like too much water. But yeah, going back to your question, compassion, duality. Yeah, I feel like
water can be really strong and really soft.
Yeah, there's this like I don't remember who said this, but it's like water takes up a lot of forms, you know. Yeah, like you were saying, it can be strong, it can be soft. Oh, I think it was like Bruce Lee had a really good quote on it, like be like water, where you have to just kind of like flow with your movement, but you know, it can also strike really hard. Yeah, that's what you're saying. But yeah, you can't, I don't know why I brought that up. Yeah, that's my favorite water quote actually, but I can't really remember it. I just remember him saying it, you know, watching the video of it.
Remember the feeling.
Yeah, of like, be like water. And it's like, yeah, be like water, you know. Yeah, I resonate a lot with water, you know. It's I feel most at home when I'm like, have you ever been in a what do you call it? It's like I was gonna say self-deprecation tank, but that's not it.
Sensory deprivation tank? I have not.
Sensory, yeah, but it's interesting when you're like just kind of floating into nothingness, but and it just reminded me of that. I thought about that story because it's the same thing with here. I was in it once, and in the middle of it, I had to pee, you know. And you know, instead of like peeing in the tank, since one, that would be not so compassionate of me. But they had like all of these warnings when you sign the thing. It's like, no, you should not pee in this tank, blah blah blah. It's like you'll get charged like blah 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 money, you know. Which is another funny thing is a friend of mine who actually was working on the tanks of those water systems. He actually said like they clean the tank all the time, and peeing it doesn't really, you know, affect it, you know. which now it's like thinking back at it, it was like, damn it, I wish I just peed. Anyway, halfway through I had to pee, right? And so I had to like get out of the tank, pee, then come back in. But it takes a while to like get acclimated to like not seeing or feeling anything. And it was just such a wild trip of like, you're just fighting that like feeling of like, oh no, where am I? Because it's like completely dark. You're floating in this like salt bath solution, right? So you're just kind of floating, which is like such an eerie feeling already, you know, just kind of like not feeling gravity, but not quite being in the water where you could kind of drown, since you're just kind of like floating on top of it. But yeah, just your body's just like fighting this water, and instead of just kind of just sinking in. And I think that's the easiest way to just drop into those things. It's just let the water just give you a hug, you know. Let the water give you a hug, and you'll be fine, you know. But yeah, why was I saying that? Yeah, so my session was like cut short in 2 quick 30-minute sessions instead of like an hour session, and it just takes a while to kind of get back in. But the second time around, you just kind of have to, you know, float and just float.
It's like you got 2 opportunities to practice that surrender.
Which was such, I guess that was such a blessing too, that I feel like that's the hardest part of floating, is just kind of learning how to float, you know. So you got a chance
so much
to practice it twice. Yeah, there's a lot of resistance to that, you know, just like there's a lot of resistance. That's why you have to be like water and just kind of if something's in the way, just go around or persist and keep going through. Yeah.
Much like compassion and much like love. And much like learning to say things I used to only be able to say sarcastically. Of letting it go through. I'm glad that you shared that too, also with something that can be so like, oh, I'm doing this like a meditation practice, or I'm doing this very serious float tank experience. I'm leaving my body to understand these things. And it's like, yeah, I had to pee in the middle, and like,
yeah, dude, it was
in the body.
Yeah, because you can't have an out of body experience when you're in your body, you know. So, and yeah.
And what a fun then too that you needed to pee all the water metaphors.
I know, right? All the water metaphors. It's good.
Do you think you'll do a float tank again?
Yeah, I think that would be pretty fun to do when things reopen again, you know. Yeah, it'd be fun. Yeah, I like the feeling of flying and floating.
Oh, they're totally similar.
Similar but different. I always viewed flying as like wind in your hair and, you know, being able to see everything. But one of my good friends back in the Philippines was saying that the closest thing to flying that she's ever experienced was more like scuba diving. And I'm like, huh, I guess that's a type of flying too, you know. You're just like in the water, floating across. Yeah, anyway.
You think you'll come on a podcast again another time? You don't have to answer that question right now.
Yeah, I mean, this
you
was
feel?
fun. Yeah, we'll see how it feels. Yeah, it was nice. It was like I said,
you're like, ooh, flow this one through.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, we got a lot of stuff covered, you know. I think just having to pee again is a hindrance. That's the downsides of being water, I guess. It just goes right through you.
It keeps us moving. Please,
yeah, for sure.
Drink water and pee and enjoy your
Yes, always hydrate, guys. Everyone, please hydrate. All right.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing.
Oh my gosh, Annie, thank you so much as well. I mean, this is like a growth experience for me too. It's like I said, I don't, I don't really get to play around in here, so it's good. Wordplay.
I'm really glad that we got to.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great. It was awesome.
Thank you for tuning in, and thanks for being you.